The men's semifinals taking place today in New York City with Jannik Sinner, the world number one, taking on Jack Draper in the first semifinal tonight. Then later on in the night, we're going to see an All-American semifinal with Taylor Fritz taking on Frances Tiafoe. In today's video, guys, we're going to take a deeper look at these matchups and give a little preview and prediction for each. Now, before we get into that, just want to remind everybody out there, please do me a favor. Make sure you guys like today's video and don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. This way you guys can follow along with further coverage of this year's US Open. All right, with that being said, let's get into the first semifinal tonight, which will take place at 3 o'clock in the afternoon here in the United States. That is the Eastern time for that. So we have Jannik Sinner, the world number one, taking on Jack Draper. Now, for Draper, incredible run to get here, right? You could say what you want to say about the draw and the upsets that took place and everything. He's here, and that is impressive. But this is a whole nother animal here today, guys, as he's taking on Jannik Sinner, the world number one, a guy that's been great on the hard courts all year long. Remember, Sinner started the year off winning the Australian Open. He also had several successes mixed in there, right? He had a pretty good showing in Indian Wells, followed that up by winning in Miami. He won in Cincinnati just before this year's U.S. Open. Now here he is in the U.S. Open semifinals, beating Daniil Medvedev in the quarterfinals. Medvedev, a former U.S. Open champion. So take it what you will, guys. It's a great story for Draper, but he's really going to have to play probably the match of his life to beat Jannik Sinner in this one. That's just my personal opinion. I think Sinner is just way too good on the hard courts. He has all momentum on his side. Again, winning Cincinnati just before this year's U.S. Open. I love his game on the hard courts. Sinner's going to be a very tough out. He's definitely absolutely the favorite to win this year's U.S. Open. But then on the other side, right, in the All-American semifinal, this is where things are interesting. This should be a good matchup, and I think that one of these guys could definitely challenge Sinner. So we have Taylor Fritz, who, guys, you have to really like the way that Fritz has been improving on his game. He's always had that big serve, but now his movement is so much better. He's moving laterally very well. And then coming up to the net, too, we've seen him do a lot of impressive things on a serve and volley throughout the course of this U.S. Open. So you really have to like the way that Fritz has been improving. We've been waiting for Fritz to step up, right? He's had a few quarterfinal appearances, then kind of gets steamrolled in those matchups. We've been waiting for him to kind of, when's Taylor Fritz going to arrive? This probably is the big moment here. He beats Alexander Zverev in the quarterfinals. He's looking really good, and I think he actually would give Jannik Sinner a matchup problem a little bit. I think he definitely has the tools to make that one interesting, though he's going to have to play very well to beat Jannik Sinner. However, he has to get by Frances Tiafoe first. Tiafoe's playing great, and it seems like every year at this time, guys, Tiafoe comes alive. And whenever an American plays in the U.S. Open, the crowd, of course, is behind them, and they're going wild, and Tiafoe feeds off of that. He does such a great job of getting the crowd in the mix of things. Let's see how Fritz is going to handle that, because if Tiafoe gets off to a good start and that crowd's going nuts and he's waving his arms up and the crowd's jumping up and down, it's going to be a lot to deal with, I think, for Fritz. So this one, guys, the mental side of things makes this interesting. I think as far as a matchup goes, I really like Fritz in the matchup stylistically, but let's see when that crowd's yelling and jumping and the nerves and the pressure, because we've seen Tiafoe's not going to fold under this U.S. Open pressure, guys. We've seen him every year make deep runs in it. He's always around. He never leaves this tournament early by any stretch of the imagination. You really have to put him away at the U.S. Open. So let's see how Fritz responds to that. So anyway, guys, for a prediction for that one, like I said, stylistically, I like Fritz in this matchup, so I am still going to stick with Taylor Fritz to beat Frances Tiafoe. But again, let's see if Tiafoe, with that crowd, can make things interesting in that matchup. So again, my official predictions, Jannik Sinner, Taylor Fritz are going to move on to this year's U.S. Open final in New York City.